Okay. I think that did it. So here's what we're going to do. I'm just going to go solo. We won't have Skype calls anymore. I'm going to go into my phone booth and pretend, and I'm going to come out the other side, and we're going to pretend that the last half hour never happened. All right? So, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this evening's virtual tour presentation of Interstate 17 in the great state of Arizona. For the next 2 hours, we will be trying to make our way from Phoenix on up to Flagstaff, and we will do it on one of America's most scenic stretches of interstate highway. So, I'm sure you're all very excited. I know you all can't wait. You can take a pause in the video and read up on my announcements. Pretty straightforward stuff here. Daily live content, Monday to Friday. I've got a live drive. Saturday, we've got webinars and virtual tours every week. And so you have that to look forward to. And also, we're working on developing a feature for Sundays. So during this shutdown period that we've got, we'll at least do the best we can to keep you entertained. Okay, so I-17 runs about 150 miles from Phoenix on up to Flagstaff, and it covers a wide variety of terrain that we're all going to get to see, I hope. And here's a look at what we're going to be doing next week. Okay, so we have 146 miles to cover, and we will do so in about an hour and 54 minutes. Welcome to I-17. All right, so we begin in right near downtown Phoenix. The right-hand 3 lanes of I-10 West branch off to form northbound 17. The left-hand 4 lanes of I-10 West split to the left. We have this beautiful Air Force plane flying overhead, welcoming us to the interstate. So we are on the western section of the Maricopa Freeway. In a few miles, we will make a sharp right-hand turn and head north towards Black Canyon. I think that the average, it was fast. I know that. 77 miles an hour. I think the speed limit on the vast majority of rural freeways in Arizona is 75. Now we will come across some stretches of freeway with 65 limits in the mountain areas when we're like ascending or descending. But by and large, it's going to be 75. Actually, most of the length of I-17 through Phoenix is 55. So, and that's also largely because I-17 is the oldest freeway corridor in Phoenix. When we get north of I-10 and we join the Black Canyon Freeway, that's going to be the oldest section of freeway that we've got. At least in the Phoenix area. All right. Hope everybody can see the video well at this point. Again, we apologize for the earlier technical issues. This is a brand new feature that we're trying out, and we obviously still have some work to do on it. So, but it looks like we've got at least a week to try to figure it out. So that's a good thing. But, as they say, the show must go on, and I'm going to do it solo because why the hell not? I'm here, you're there, hopefully you enjoy the trip. And if you don't, well, go screw. I don't know. All of our Skype callers who we had originally, I believe they've all migrated to the chat, the live chat. So we've got Steve from New Jersey, we've got Doug from the Albany area, and we have Josh from the Albany area. So those were the three that were going to join us Skype wise, and they were with us until we had to end the video. We had to end the call. So we won't be screwing around with Skype the rest of the evening. So hopefully you guys don't mind listening to me talk your ears off for the next couple hours. I'm going to do the best I can. I obviously can't cover everything without any kind of live conversation, but we're going to have to make do with what we have. So, and of course, you guys can feel free to keep the live chat going as best you can. And I know a lot of you guys are already members on the AA Rhodes forum, so you guys should have no issues communicating with each other about what we're watching right now. So right now we're making a giant right-hand curve, and this is called the Durango Curve. It's a 90-degree bend in the freeway. And the Maricopa Freeway section of I-17 ends here, and as we come out of the curve, the Black Canyon Freeway begins. Now, the Black Canyon Corridor was the first established freeway corridor in the city of Phoenix and the surrounding area. And as you'll see as we head north for about the next 10 miles or so, it is very much a substandard freeway when you compare it against other freeways in the area, like I-10. This section of I-17 also has a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit, and I believe it's the only stretch of freeway, or at least the only sizable stretch in the Phoenix area that has a 55 limit. So there's that. There's that little nugget. All right. Laura, I am so happy that I am putting your daughter to sleep. That's probably my greatest accomplishment from tonight. So we just saw I-10 a few miles ago, and we will cross I-10 once again here. Now we're on the northwest side of downtown. We just traveled the southern and western segments of the downtown freeway loop. So I-10 crosses us again right here. You can head east on 10 to go back downtown to complete the loop, or you can head west on 10. By the way, this is a beautiful 4-level stack. To head towards California. And by the way, this is not the original interchange that was built in the 60s. This has been rebuilt significantly since then. Now, I should probably point out that the video that we're going to be watching over the next hour and a half or more was filmed all in one session. It was filmed on February 11th of this year, so it's just over a month old. And it was all done in one sitting, more or less. So this is basically a real-time drive up this freeway. And yep, so you might see it skip every once in a while. That's no issue. That's because when I created this 2 hour long video, I spliced together all of the individual files that range anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes apiece and strung them out into a single video through an editing process. So if you ever see the video skip like that, that's no issue. That's going to happen every once in a while. And somebody was saying that nobody drives 55. Well, you sure do when there's an Arizona State Trooper right next to you. And that's what we're going to have for a little while here, I think. And yeah, I'm gonna let you guys in the live chat, basically talk amongst yourselves. I know there were more than one. There were a couple of questions at least about the exit numbering on I-17, and really, in Arizona in general, you see how the exit numbers don't necessarily begin at exit 1, and I think that some of our more educated people in the live chat can help shine the light on why that is. It's definitely unconventional. Arizona is the only state that I know that does that. So it definitely throws you for a loop if you've never seen it before. And if you guys have any questions for me as we go through this, feel free to drop me a line in the live chat. I do have that. I actually have this video open on my phone next to the screen that I'm broadcasting, so I can actually see all the comments that are coming in. Looks like we have about a 15-second delay or so, maybe a little more than that. Yeah, the way that I was reading the mileposts is that originally when this freeway was built, it was a state highway, and so the state highway went all the way down to the border and came all the way up, and a piece of it still exists up in the Prescott area, but the rest of it was removed and replaced with an interstate. So they basically took the state highway mile markers and retained them when the interstate was signed. I think that's basically the way to explain it, and I think that's, in most cases, that's the best way to explain it. Narrow shoulders, frequent exits in one straight line, basically, for about several miles. Those are the characteristics of this section of the freeway, which, again, was the first freeway corridor developed in the Phoenix area. And in a lot of respects, it's still largely unchanged from its original design. There is a plan in place for a major construction project to commence next year, 2021. And it will, from what I can gather, is going to be a major reconstruction of this entire corridor. But we'll have to see what Arizona elects to go ahead with here. I haven't actually seen any of the renderings for it. But that appears to be on the horizon starting in the next year. The hell just happened? I don't know what that was all about. Oh, are you serious? Well, I apparently goofed, so I'm putting this together. So we're gonna have to... I don't know how the hell that happened. Yeah, that didn't edit correctly. So for some reason I got the wrong video file in here for some reason. I don't know why that happened. I don't know how I didn't catch that. Well, add it to the list. We've had just about everything else go wrong tonight so far. Alright, so we're back generally in the place we're supposed to be here. Yeah, so we're continuing north. This is exit 209. Alright, we're good. Yeah, so... Alright. Should be good at least for a little while. Yeah, that's my bad. I don't know why I didn't check that. Anyway. Okay, so we continue to have exits about 1 per mile here. This is one of the more congested sections of freeway in the state because you have such frequent entry and exit. And this is a high volume corridor to begin with, so there's a lot going on here at any given time, that's for sure. Let's see here. Now that we've averted that catastrophe, let's Let me see what we got here. Let me catch up on some comments. Wiz, have you ever driven cross country? No, I haven't. I cheat. I fly to everywhere now. So, I've never actually done a drive from New York to, say, California uninterrupted. I think probably, well, the furthest I've driven from home would be when I drove to Florida back in 2015. So that would be the longest continuous drive that I did. Everywhere else, like even out to places like Chicago, I flew there. So, Houston, New Orleans, I flew. So, if I go to Atlanta, I'll probably fly there too. So, there's no real reason for me to drive all those places. Just saves a lot of time that I could spend filming stuff in new areas, because I don't need to revisit everything twice. So, you will probably see that trend continue whenever we get back to normal here with the virus situation and all that. I'm sure it'll be full speed ahead for a lot of people who are interested in roads. So, and yeah, we are coming up here on Loop 101. This is one of the belt highways around the Phoenix area. And we're going to have ourselves another 4-level stack here in just a moment. Okay, what else we got? Catch up on some comments here. John Holtz, I'm very sorry to hear that you're stuck in Europe right now. Hopefully they'll let you come home as soon as possible. Let's see. Yep. Jeff, have you ever been in the Vegas area? Yeah, well, I saw that firsthand back in February, how Vegas goes from desert to big city and back to desert within 45 minutes, maybe even less than that. That was quite interesting. And we'll definitely get to see a lot more of that in next week's presentation when we talk about Las Vegas on that webinar next Saturday. So we'll be able to go into a lot more detail with all of that. Yeah, and I think a lot of, Doug, I know you said that you wanted to drive out to Oregon coming up, and yeah, that's, unfortunately everybody's had to put their plans on hold because nobody really knows what the end game is going to be. But, we can just hope that this passes sooner rather than later, and hopefully by Memorial Day we get the all clear from the powers that be and we're allowed to proceed. I mean, that's basically how I'm trying to operate at this point. I have suspended all of my travel plans, at least as far out as Memorial Day. If we get the all clear sooner, that's a bonus. However, I'm not counting on it at this point. But we'll just have to see how this unfolds in the coming weeks, and we'll just have to do the best we can to manage it and roll with it. Laura asks, what's the furthest west you've driven? Well, I assume you mean like from home, right? So if I flew to San Francisco, that doesn't count. I think probably the westernmost continuous drive I did was in 2017. I drove out to Ohio and I covered most of the major cities in Ohio except for Cleveland, because that was the only city I had done up to that point. And on one of the last days of the trip, I drove the Ohio Turnpike all the way out to Indiana and got off the Indiana toll road at the first exit, which was I-69. And I believe that is the furthest west in longitude that I've ever driven from home. I think that interchange there is the furthest west. Now, when I flew out to Chicago last July, I flew to Chicago and rented a car and then drove the Indiana toll road east to that same interchange so that I was able to complete that entire bit of coverage from New York all the way out to Illinois and incorporate all the eastern toll roads with the Indiana and Illinois tollway system. So now all of that was completed and fully documented. So it's interesting how that works out sometimes. Like I'll fly to place A and I'll do whatever the scope is, and then down the road someday I'll fly to point B and I will drive to the very point where I left off with the trip A itinerary so that everything is connected in its entirety. So I would imagine you'll see that a lot in coming years, especially out west. I mean, even with the western trip that I did, there's still so much west of the Mississippi River that I haven't seen that I really want to see. So I think that's really going to become the main focus as we go forward. What else we got? Have you ever wished you had other people talking during these long silent stretches? Yes, that is true. That is very true. I did plan on having other people here, but as we know, that had to get scrapped, unfortunately. By the way, here's Loop 303 that we're passing. This is an outer beltway in the northwest quadrant of the Phoenix metro area. This interchange is a standard, diamond interchange with a couple of faster ramp movements on it. But the eventual plan for this location is for it to be converted into a high-speed interchange with flyovers. As the Loop 303 corridor gets fully upgraded to freeway standard, which has just about happened. They removed the last of the F-grade intersections within the last couple of years. They built a huge stack interchange at I-10 west of downtown Phoenix. So the 303 corridor has really taken shape in the last few years, and it's quite interesting to see. So as we pass Loop 303, we come within a couple of miles here of leaving the Phoenix metropolitan area, and we'll go back and we'll go from metro area sprawl to a whole lot of not much here pretty quickly in the next few miles. Yeah, I mean, that Ohio trip, I would say I probably uploaded maybe, and I'm just throwing a number out here. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I probably uploaded about half of what I did. Maybe a little more than that, maybe 60%, but it was definitely in the 50% range. And that's just the way it goes. I mean, the last 3 or 4 years, I've been going on a lot more trips, a lot more frequently, and I've been bringing back these bigger and bigger hauls of videos. And so the backlog that has developed in the last couple of years or so has been astronomical. I estimated about a month ago that I had about a 2-year backlog on my videos. So if I filmed nothing else and I just sat at home and I was quarantined for 2 years with a evil virus floating around, that I could probably sustain the channel for another 2 years, which is quite amazing when you think about it. I know that my backlog isn't nearly as long as some of yours, and I'm looking at you, Steve and Doug, but I consider that pretty remarkable that I've got 2 years of material that are just sitting away in the drawer not being used. Where did I leave off here? Okay. As we leave the Phoenix metropolitan area, Danny chimes in with, "Are those afternoon live streams a definite moving forwards? Do you plan to keep them up?" Yes, at least through next week. I think I mentioned this before, but as of right now, I am considered essential personnel for the city of New York. So, I still have to commute to work every day. I still have to report to where I've been reporting for the last several months. However, there is a chance that at the end of next week, there will be significant changes, or there will be something that happens that will make me have to rethink how I go about doing the stream every day. It's not a bad thing. Nothing bad's gonna happen, but it is gonna. I think you're going to see the stream shift a little bit. I still plan on doing it every day. I still plan on giving you a commute video every day, but there might be a little bit of a twist introduced. So we'll have to see how that plays out. I'm not sure exactly, but if it were to play out, it would play out right at the start of the month of April. So yeah, you can expect to see that going forward, at least for the next week or so. Like I said, with the non-essential personnel being asked to stay home, the roads are going to be a lot emptier than you're used to seeing them, even on weekends. Part of my secret of filming all the urban areas across America is that I work the weekends. I film all that stuff on Saturdays and Sundays. So, I'm used to seeing light traffic in cities on weekends. I know that may come as a shock to some people, but that's been my formula for 10 years. And so I'm very much accustomed to it. That's how I go about planning my itineraries. I always plan around the weekends because I know I have to be within the cities on weekends in order to get the best video results. So, and I have to tell you, it's been quite a surprise already. And this was even before all the non-essential stuff happened. So it's going to be really interesting to see what the roads look like on Monday and all next week. Okay. Alright, so we are basically out of Phoenix. We're down to 2 lanes northbound. And it's going to basically stay that way for the duration of the trip. We're at exit 232, so we've got about 110 miles to go. Okay. And keep an eye out as we work our way northward. You will see those little signs on the right that list an elevation. So we just passed an elevation 2000 sign, and you'll be seeing a lot more of those as we work our way northward. Eventually culminating in an elevation 7,000 sign as we reach the northern terminus. Yep, speed limit jumps to 75. And now we've basically gone from holy cow big city to the middle of the desert as we start to see cacti along the highway. We have 107 miles to Flagstaff. Okay, so well, if it has been your lifelong dream to see a cactus in a video of mine, you're going to get your wish. Um, in fact, you can see all that unfolding right now in front of us. It's one of the interesting contrasts in the landscape that we're going to see a lot as we go northward here is that we'll have this desert like landscape in the foreground. You'll have the cacti on the side of the road and all of that, and then you'll see in the background snow-capped mountains. So even within a short distance, there is such a huge contrast in climate and fauna and stuff like that. It's really, really quite remarkable. I don't know that there are many places in America that are like that. So like here, for example, you can see way off in the distance we have snow on the mountains and up ahead, and we have like a real typical desert landscape that we're going through right here. Yeah, I called bullshit on that 89, by the way. There's no way I was going that fast. Well, if I did a virtual tour of the Blue Star Turnpike in New Hampshire, it would be over in 10 minutes. I'm not sure that would be the best presentation, although you know what? Given the way things have gone so far tonight, it might not be a bad idea. That's a news van. I think of one of the local news stations out of Phoenix. If I put a little sound on in the background, does that work for you guys? And we just passed one of the famous avoid overheating signs. Turn off AC next few miles. As we start this pretty steep upgrade for the next few miles.
Alright, so we've leveled off here. And we have a very different looking landscape now.
I'm back. Just had to grab a beer. Hooray, beer! Let's see. What do you guys want to know? If I can get my phone to work correctly. Have you been to all 50 states? No, I haven't. I think I'm up to 37 right now. And I'm missing mostly stuff in the plains and the Northwest. And Alaska. What kind of vehicle was I driving on this trip? This was a Ford Fusion. 2020 model year. Am I going to do Long Island highways again? I don't have a reason to at this point. There's nothing new to really cover. I am not a fan of redoing areas that I've already done in the past unless there is a significant amount of changes that have transpired along a section of highway. Then I might go back and revisit it, but I'm not in the business of periodically revisiting the same sections of highway. I think that gets pretty boring after a while, and it's also pretty unnecessary. I'd rather use that time to cover new areas that I haven't seen before. What else we got? Now here's a question that we could probably spend the next hour batting back and forth. Of all the areas you've been to, which has been your favorite so far? I feel like it changes every time I go on a trip. I like San Francisco. I liked Hawaii. Love New Orleans. What else? I'm not going to mention anywhere in the Northeast because that's where I'm from, and so I have a bias towards those areas already. Well, Chicago was cool. Pittsburgh, I love Pittsburgh. Cincinnati's cool. St. Louis, I liked St. Louis. And if you notice, there's kind of a theme between most of those cities. They're on rivers, and there are a lot of interesting bridges involved. So maybe that's part of it. Hawaii was just cool because it was like venturing into the unknown. Nobody else had really gone out there and done such a full documentation of the freeway system. So being the first to do that, you kind of felt like when you were flying to Hawaii, I kind of felt like I was flying to the moon, like I was going to some uncharted territory. And I hope that the series that I did in Hawaii will help move the needle a little bit and get more and more people interested in going out there and seeing it for themselves, because it really is a fascinating place. And it's not as far to get to as you might think. It's certainly not that hard to get to. If you're willing to sit on a plane for a while to get there, it's definitely worth it. What's my favorite state? I gotta say, probably Hawaii. Again, it goes back to what I said about the novelty of it and being the first to cover an entire island state highway system on video and in pictures that had never been done before. So I think that as I look back on my contributions to the road enthusiast hobby in future years, that's going to be one thing that I always come back to, is the fact that I went out there in the first place and the fact that I loved it when I was there. I couldn't get enough of it. I wish I had more than 5 days to spend out there. So it's probably my favorite, and it's also definitely going to be the most memorable, I would think. Arizona wasn't too bad either, though. Arizona would give it a run for its money, but I would say Hawaii is still in first place by a lot. Are you going to the North Carolina Outer Banks Road meet? Well, I'm on the guest list for it, but the meet has to happen in order for me to go to it. And so obviously with all the virus talk and restrictions that are in place, and with nobody really knowing when those restrictions will end, it has put a lot of the plans for trips in April and May in jeopardy. So if there's a meet to attend at the end of April, and it is safe and reasonable to go, I certainly plan to go. It's one of the few times of the year that I get to interact with the larger road meet community in person. So it's definitely an event that I hope will eventually take place. But we're just gonna have to see what happens. That's really all I can tell you. Will you come to I-15, Butte, Helena, Great Falls? Well, I don't really have any real fixed goals in mind for this channel. I still don't. I've been doing it for 10 years and I still don't really have like an official to-do list. I will say that in the last year or so, I think once I got Hawaii checked off the list, I really started to think long and hard about possibly trying to get all 50 states represented on the channel. So we'll have to see about that. There's a lot that would go into that. It actually wouldn't take as long as I initially thought it would. Because I'm at 37 right now, right? So I got 13 to go. So I think you could probably knock out a lot of that in a relatively short period of time. But it is complicated. There's a lot of stuff that has to be factored in. And I have to be able to have the time to do it. So obviously, Montana is one of our 50 states, and so if I do pursue the 50-state goal on this channel, then you're going to see me in Big Sky Country eventually. So, I don't know. Let's stay tuned and let's see what happens. Alright, so we're past the halfway point of this video. We're into our second hour. We're 70 miles from Flagstaff. Here's another interesting one. Do you have any plans on expanding into Canada? Well, my focus on Canada to this point has been the major cities. so Montreal and Toronto. I would think that in the short term, if you were to see any new material from Canada, it would be updates from areas that I've already covered. Because especially in the Montreal area, there's been a lot that's changed since I was there 5 years ago. That would be the more immediate goal. Long term, I think if there's one area that I would look to expand into, it would be the maritime provinces. From what I've heard from reliable sources, there's a lot of interesting stuff in places like Nova Scotia and Prince Edward Island that's worth seeing. So I think that's probably the direction I would go in. If I had to pick an area of Canada that I would expand to, that would be my first choice. And again, that's a long-term thing. So obviously the story evolves, continuously as the years go by. So 5 years from now, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see where I end up. Yeah, so the webinars that we're doing are going to be focusing in on material that was done back in February. The South Florida videos have been online for over 3 years now. There isn't really a need to go back and rehash all of that material again. So we're not going to spend time on cities that have been covered for a long time or have already had presentations done for them. We're not going to go back into the vault and do webinars for that stuff. We will continue with webinars for winter 2020 stuff, and actually that'll keep us busy right through the month of May, actually. There's enough there. So I'm not too worried about finding material. Stuff to do for the next couple months. We have plenty of stuff to talk about as it is. So I think that's the path that we're going to pursue at this point. This would probably be a good question to ask those of you in the live chat. A lot of you are very well traveled, members of the hobby. And excuse me while I pass this left lane bitch. So the thing that I would probably have to ask you guys is, what have been some of your favorite places that you've visited over the years? Because I feel like I know the answer to that question for a lot of you, but you guys might surprise me with your answers, so why don't you bat that around for a few minutes while I go have another few sips of beer. Yeah, I've heard good things about Iceland. Have not been there yet myself. Lorraine's favorite place would be Fishkill, wouldn't it? Well, it better be. I let her sprawl out on my living room floor that night, so I hope she found it comfortable. And she's gonna look back probably about 15 years from now at that picture of me holding her with a Titans jersey on, and she's gonna be like, oh, Jesus Christ. Yep. Can't wait until we start sharing those pictures many years from now. Okay, so now, this is one of the more interesting parts of the interstate right here as we descend through the Camp Verde Pass. It's going to be a several mile downgrade section, and there are going to be some amazing views. Starting with this one right here. So, as we descend at an average of a 6% grade, enjoy these panoramic views you're going to get. Some of the best on the entire interstate system for my money. Here's one of our runaway truck ramps. We now descend past the 4,000 foot mark. We're dropping like a stone right now. Yeah, this is easily one of the, if not the best part of the whole interstate. Yeah, Doug has explored a lot more of Arizona over the years, so he knows the places to visit, that's for sure. I think those mountains that you're seeing off in the distance are going to be the same mountains that we climb near the end of the video. I could be wrong about that. But that's... what is that, like 20 miles away maybe? Something like that. Because we've just descended back to around 3,000 feet. And we're going to go through another cycle of climbing in a short time from now to get us back up near the 7,000 foot mark. And I think we're going to go over that same ridge that you're talking about. Yeah, so Flagstaff, to give you a little bit of a preview here. Humphries Peak, which is the tallest mountain in the state of Arizona, and is basically sitting right above the city of Flagstaff, had plenty of snow on it, but Flagstaff itself did not. At the time of my visit, it had been a pretty dry winter to that point. So... and I think that's really changed in the last month. They've been getting hit pretty hard up that way. Southern California, Arizona, they've all been getting a lot of rain and snow lately. But at the time of my visit, there really wasn't a whole lot to speak of. However, at the end of this video, you will see, and I'll probably call your attention to it when we get there, but you will see snowflakes in the air. So... that's something to stay tuned for. We go from a desert city in Phoenix to a small town with snow coming down. All within less than 2 hours. Yeah, I don't know what that sound was in the background. It was not my turn signal, and it was not my phone. I think my car was yelling at me for some reason. I don't know why. That happened a lot when I was out on this trip. My car yelled at me a lot. So I definitely have emotional scars from that trip because my car would always yell at me. Here's the main exit to Sedona. You can take Highway 179 about 15 miles to the northwest to reach Sedona, which is a beautiful place from what I hear. I did not get to visit there on this trip. I was busy doing other nonsense in other parts of the Southwest, but I'm told that it's definitely a place that's worth checking out. So we're starting our climb again. We just passed 4,000 feet again. So over the next several miles, we're going to approach the 7,000 foot elevation mark. And we are now within 40 miles of Flagstaff. Alright, 5,000 feet. Yeah, I think I think at times the carriageways on I-17 are about a half mile apart, and I think this is one of those areas. Alright, we've reached 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We want to thank all of you for tuning in. This has been it's been fun, but we've obviously had to navigate a lot of technical problems, so we appreciate all of you guys sticking with it. And if you're just joining us, we are on northbound Interstate 17, about 30 miles south of Flagstaff, Arizona. So welcome in. I think this is where we had that problem before, where for some reason there was a video that got stuck in there that wasn't supposed to be there. Yeah, this is the one. Alright. So, we'll skip back about an hour and a half in this video and let's watch this piece. Now we're supposed to see this piece. Okay. Yeah. Again, sorry guys about that. I don't know why I didn't catch that when I was making this. But, I think we have learned a lot of lessons tonight. So the fact that you guys are still with us is very encouraging, to say the least. And I appreciate your patience, and again, apologize for all the issues that we've had tonight. We're going to try not to have this happen again. We're going to do our best. Alright, Doug asks, most scenic stretch of interstate you've driven? And this would probably be a good question for some of you in the chat to answer as well. I think, well, immediately when somebody asks me about a scenic stretch of interstate, my mind, since last year, automatically goes to H3 in Hawaii. There's really nothing else like it anywhere in the country. There's some really beautiful scenery in the western states, for sure. There's only one H3, though. And even after this trip this past year, or this past month, rather, I have not seen anything that would dethrone H3. I've seen stuff that's close. You know, that stretch of 17 that we went on a few minutes ago on the Camp Verde Pass, that's in the conversation. I-15 through the Virgin River Canyon in Arizona is amazing. Like, it's like otherworldly in how amazing it is. I still think H3 is better. It might be close, but I still think I would pick H3. And there's also a lot of stuff out there as far as interstate scenery that I haven't seen. I haven't driven I-70 in Colorado and Utah. I haven't driven a lot of stuff in Utah in general. Like Oregon, Montana. Like, there's a lot of states that I haven't been to yet, too, that supposedly have really amazing scenery. So those are my thoughts. You notice that all the scenic, quote-unquote, stretches of interstate that I'm quick to mention are in the western states. And while there's nothing wrong with the interstates in the eastern half of the country, we don't have the scenery or the terrain that the western states have. There's just no comparison. So those are my thoughts. And again, that's one of the reasons why I really want to visit the West a lot more in the coming years, because there's just so much stuff out there that's incredible. And so when all this virus stuff dies down, I can't wait to go back out there. And that's kind of how I'm looking at it. Yeah, I mean, 84 through along the Columbia River there is definitely one that I've seen pictures of and have heard a lot about. So that's one that I want to go see at some point. I-68, yeah. As far as a scenic interstate in the east, 68 is definitely a prime candidate, that's for sure. It made a very strong impression on me when I drove it. Geez, that was almost 2 years ago already when I covered I-68 for the channel. But, yeah, I hear a lot of good things about West Virginia in general. But yeah, 68 is definitely a good one. Yeah, I think that Glenwood Canyon is definitely on a lot of our favorites lists, or if we haven't been there yet, they're on our to-do lists. And that's definitely Glenwood Canyon is definitely on my list, that's for sure. I-16. I did cover a little bit of I-16 many years ago when I did my trip to Florida. I just did the part around Savannah. Yeah, I've heard that there's a really cool spot along I-82. I-15 in Montana. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really good stretches of freeway in the Mountain West. Lorraine has to get out of the house a little bit more, because I-395 in downtown Baltimore is definitely easy to top. That's okay, though. She's got a little while. She's got some time to catch up. So remember how I said that we were going to go through a lot of changes in scenery, right? We started off in Phoenix. We went through the desert. We had the snow-capped mountains in the background. We had the cacti along the side of the highway. And now we're in the middle of a pine forest. And that's all transpired in the last hour and a half. So remember what I said about I-17 at the start. I mean, this is one of the more varied stretches of... Holy crap. Okay, I gotta... This is where that clip ended, so... Hang on 1 second. Let me find where we left off here. I think it was somewhere, yeah, this is it. Okay. So, as I said, this is one of the more varied stretches of interstate in the whole country, for that matter. Forget Arizona. This is really quite an experience to see. If you actually watch it from beginning to end, it's really an amazing experience. And it's an amazing experience to drive it. I know I was really in awe a lot of the time in Arizona in general, especially in the northern part of the state. But this was definitely one of those incredible experiences that is going to go down as one of my favorite, for sure. Alright, so we're about 20 miles from Flagstaff, and we've leveled off here in elevation. We are just shy of 7,000 feet. We will see a 7,000 foot elevation sign a few miles from now. Alright. As we approach exit 328, we now see Humphries Peak coming into view way in the distance here. Humphries Peak is right above Flagstaff. The peak has an elevation of 12,600 feet above sea level. It is the highest point in the state of Arizona. And on this particular day, the top of the mountain is shrouded by some relatively low-lying clouds. But on a clear day, it's possible to see the peak from upwards of 100 miles away, maybe. If you're in northern Arizona. I remember when I was driving back from driving US 163 and I was heading westbound on US 160. This would be well to the northeast of Tuba City. And yeah, the terrain there is very flat. I mean, you're on a plateau that's many thousands of feet above sea level, but it's largely flat. And I forget the name of the town that I passed, but when we got through the town, I could see the peak from, the highway, and I estimated that it was about 100 miles away. And it was very distinct on the horizon. So this mountain is very prominent in the northern part of the state. Well, we're getting down to the end here, folks. We're about 10 miles from the north end of I-17. So now's a good time to get in any final questions or thoughts that you have about this highway. Because we will be wrapping up here. We'll be wrapping up with the video in about 10 minutes or so. I'm not sure if you can notice this on your screen, but if you look pretty hard, you can see little white specks every once in a while. Those are snowflakes. There were some light flurries in the area as I approached Flagstaff. Alright, here's your welcome to Flagstaff sign, and here's your 7,000 foot elevation sign. That is about the highest point on I-17, is roughly right at 7,000 feet. The city of Flagstaff is officially listed at 6,900 feet. The highest elevation point that I drove on this trip was actually on US 180 to the west of Flagstaff, where it tops out at over 8,000 feet. But I think we've passed our highest elevation for the evening. And we're fast approaching the I-40 junction, which is the last major interchange on the interstate. Control cities on I-40 are the largest city in New Mexico, which is Albuquerque, and Los Angeles gets a shout out as the westbound control city. And now we enter Flagstaff with the light snow falling, and we pass the I-40 interchange. I-17 will come to an end shortly, and State Highway 89A will continue northward into downtown. Exit 341 is the last exit on the interstate. And with Humphries Peak standing tall in the background, we come to the northern terminus of Interstate 17 after 146 miles. I don't know how the hell we did it. 2 hours ago I was thinking we weren't going to make it, but we made it. Welcome to Flagstaff. And as this video comes to an end, I'm going to give you guys some bonus coverage here of State Highway 89A and Interstate 40 business as we enter central Flagstaff. But as this video comes to an end and as we start to wind things down here, I want to thank all the viewers in the live chat. Great job by you guys. We could not have done this without you, literally. Obviously, things did not go all of that according to plan tonight. We had a lot of issues, but we really do appreciate you sticking with it. And we had a pretty large audience throughout the evening, so I want to thank you guys very much for putting up with the technical issues. And as soon as this video is over, I am going to convene with my group of guys that I was going to do this originally with via Skype, and we're going to try to figure out what we're going to do from here, because we can't have these issues happen again. It's always a little bit embarrassing when you hype something up like this and it doesn't go the way that you wanted it to, and it looks pretty bad on you. But I'm an engineer by trade, which is synonymous with me being a problem solver. So I'm going to take these experiences, and I'm going to take tonight, and I'm going to try to make it a heck of a lot better for you guys in time for Saturday. Fortunately, we have a week to figure this out, but I'm sure we'll come up with something that'll be a bit more representative of a professional presentation for next time. Obviously, the circumstances involving the coronavirus and having everybody stay home has led to a necessity on my part and everybody in the AA Rhodes community to improvise and come up with new ways to entertain ourselves and entertain everyone in the YouTube audience. So we're still trying to feel our way through all that stuff, but hopefully by next Saturday we'll have a plan of action that'll work a lot better than what tonight did. But we still hope you enjoyed this trip. I certainly did. This was a lot of fun to do, in spite of all the nonsense. So, Interstate 40 Business joins us now. And we're going to be entering downtown Flagstaff in a couple of minutes here. Alright, and as we come to the intersection with US Route 180 near downtown Flagstaff, this video comes to an end. So over the last hour and 54 minutes, we have covered about 150 miles. I'm very happy to say that this video presentation has come to an end, and I want to thank everybody who not only tuned in, but once again, who stayed with it. And we're going to try to do better next time. Hopefully we will. We have no place to go but up at this point. So once again, I want to thank you guys. It's been a lot of fun doing this, and looking forward to doing this again next time. So again, the way we're going to do this is every Saturday we're going to have a presentation. Okay, so we did I-17 tonight. We're going to have the freeways of Las Vegas next Saturday, and then we'll keep rolling with new material on Saturdays as long as we have to. So there's that. I'm going to be doing a different live program tomorrow. I haven't decided yet on the exact timing of it, but that'll be something else for you guys to tune into if you wish, and hopefully it'll be free of all the technical problems. So yeah, I think that's it, and I think we're going to end it right here.